Today we're doing a case study with a student of mine. His name is Youssef. He's been studying with me for a few months now, and today he's with us to share about his experience, learning from me, and implementing what he learned to start practicing magic with the Jinn Kings using my rituals. Without further ado, we're going to dive right into the questions. First of all, thank you for being here with us today, Youssef.
You're very welcome, brother. I'm happy to be here to share my story.
For starters, describe a little bit about your history in the magic.
So I've been looking into magic from a very young age, praying a lot. I went to Quran school for a long while. Then there was a brief period of time in my life where I met a group of people who were into magic, rather like some left-hand path way, doing bad things with shayateen and everything they did. They sort of misled me into thinking magic comes from doing these things, which actually just end like you end up doing nothing and wasting your time and money. But the interest of magic always stayed there. I was always very interested in magic and studying it. So once I really like got sick of all the wrong promises, empty promises of do this and you will get the hikmah, you will get the wisdom. I started looking up groups on Facebook. Then I stumbled upon the group which we are in right now, and that's where I met you, Reda. And then we started the studies, and everything got very clear from that point.
The group's name is Arabic Magic and Theurgy, and we first met there. I remember you asked me a couple questions. I saw in the beginning that you were someone that had the drive and the motivation necessary. It's like you were looking for the right type of knowledge, but unfortunately, you weren't able to find it. And that's just from what you told me at the beginning. I remember also that you were interested in studying some books, different types of books, but you also had your heart set on God, the Quran, His names, and that's what really motivated me to start working with you on my end. So it was a pleasure to meet you from the start. Now, when we met, do you remember what areas of your practice you needed help with the most?
In general, I think all the areas, but the areas which I needed the most, like where I needed most help was probably the knowledge area. Like I had completely no knowledge, and I didn't really know like where to start looking, because I started like buying some books, but it's written in old English, like English I cannot understand. So it was a lot of buying books, reading 5 pages, and then getting totally demotivated.
Was it the language barrier because you speak Arabic?
Arabic and Dutch, yes.
Okay, so you speak Arabic and you still had trouble finding books about Arabic magic or just magic in general?
Arabic magic as well. Arabic magic as well, because my Arabic like writing and reading isn't the best. So it was very hard for me to find any good knowledge, if any knowledge at all.
I'm thinking now because this is something that comes over and over again about people. They are looking into magic, especially Arabic magic, and they're disappointed, that there isn't really any material out there, especially in English. I think you were able to find a few books, but what do you think was missing in order for you to start practicing?
So I didn't really feel confident in the knowledge that I had. So the books that I had and the books which I obtained my knowledge from, I didn't really have such a good feeling on the rituals or on the practices in the books, to be really honest.
This is something that comes over and over again. The reason I'm asking is because with my other students, it's kind of the same thing. They're like, I have this book, I don't know what to do with it, or I have this book, and does it seem right? Sometimes they'll show me rituals and they're like, is it supposed to be done this way? It's like, even if it's written in the book, they don't really trust it. And of course, I mean, for various reasons, there might be mistakes in books or whatever. So about the trends in the magical scene, because you see, you have been seeking this knowledge for many years, right? Even since you were much younger than now. And I'm sure you have stumbled upon different trends, right? Different paths, per se, or ways of doing things, different tariqas. So, what made you seek my guidance instead of someone else's? And, what made you choose me over others in a sense?
To be honest, it was personal intuition. Like it was just feeling like something inside of me telling me this feels good, and I feel confident in doing these practices, and I actually understand what I'm doing. That's actually the biggest part. All of these books and all of these magical trends in the magic scene, like there's always a perfect explanation of the procedure of the ritual or the practice, but it's not really it's not really something I understand. And personally, I would not I would rather not read words or do a ritual which I don't understand. The way you approached everything, building up everything, and giving all the information, not only the procedure and everything I had to do, but also the reason behind it and the logic behind it and everything behind it. And that just gives this feeling of confidence, like you actually know what you're doing. It's not like you're going down a rabbit hole blindfolded.
That's well said. That's well said. Because, you see a lot of people, they're just like, well, do what it says in the book, and you'll succeed. But unfortunately, that's not the entire truth. The first pillar of success in magic is belief. And I think understanding what we do, what we're saying, is a big part of that. This is why I take the time to really explain to people why this and why that, and why at this certain time, not that certain time. And, I'm glad that it had the intended effect, which is to give you confidence. And confidence is really the ultimate feeling in life, right? Not just in magic. An athlete has to be confident. A fighter has to be confident. A painter has to be confident. So let alone a magician, right? Who's talking to invisible spirits. So I'm glad that it had that effect on you. So I would like to ask you, what kind of information were you looking for at the beginning?
So at first, when I contacted you, it was mostly general magical information which I was looking for, because I didn't really have any knowledge at all about the jinns, about the angels, about how it all works. Because yeah, I was misled before, so I really thought of everything being different. So that was really the first step. But once we were finished with that part, it really went from there. For example, knowledge was very important for me. So after being sort of not initiated, but I had this basic knowledge of magical workings. Then I really started getting interested in the istighfar. We did a lot of istighfar. Then I got the rain. I got the rain from the istighfar, subhanallah. That was like my first manifestation that I ever had in my life. So that was also like a really, really big deal, a really nice experience. And from there, it just went from there, man. I started doing the shukr. That also helped me a lot. And yeah, from there on, we started doing the rituals, and we're still going. We're going good.
That's great. That's great. So for the non-Arabic speakers, istighfar is seeking forgiveness from God, and the shukr is actually expressing our gratitude. It's funny that you mentioned that, because this is completely opposite to the kind of information that you're expecting me to give you. when we first met. And now that you mention it as one of the most important things that you have learned with me, so many people, they come to me and they think, okay, I'm going to tell them like, look, you're going to recite these names, you're going to say this a certain number of time at this time, and this is going to happen. But that's not how things work. You don't just go and start doing magic and think you're going to succeed. You first have to put yourself in a point of success. So these things that I've given you, these, I call them, the tools, right? There are tools for our whole life, because asking forgiveness from God and expressing gratitude using specific dhikr, specific verses from the Quran, which have a certain effect on the soul and our reality, is before we start working with any angel, with any jinn, we have to understand that they have a common creator with us. And he is the one who's pulling the strings behind the scene for any ritual to succeed. So we have to go back to square one, so that whenever we call an angel, well, God sends the angel. And whenever we call a jinn, that jinn actually answers us. So if I didn't care about people's success, I would not be doing that. And many people, they come to me and they just expect like, okay, what should I do? What should I practice? But the first practice you should have is for yourself. The first spirit that you should practice with is God. Then when you get that relationship going, you get into his good side kind of thing, right? Because magic is really a blessing when you look at it that way. That's what makes the difference with people who succeed, people who don't, people who do everything, right? They're going to get all the ingredients, they're going to fast, they're going to do this, but they still fail because God didn't bless their work. I mean, it's just, for me, it just makes sense. So now there's something that I would like you to develop on is the rain. You said that in passing. I think it would be beneficial for people to hear about that rain, because out of all my students, you're still one of the few ones who are able to get what we call, air quotes, their rain, right? And I remember the first time I mentioned that to you, you said, what, am I going to dream about rain? Am I going to, like, how does this work? I'm just going to recite this verse and it's going to rain. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I remember seeing that puzzled look on your face. And you'd still have, because someone, you meet over the internet, right? You start studying with them, they tell you this. I mean, you still have to have some kind of faith to really go through with it, right? And it doesn't come by a snap of your fingers. It takes a long time. So I think that our listeners will really appreciate hearing about the rain, because as I said, it doesn't happen for everyone. It's really people who put the work in and the perseverance that it happens for. And also, it's from God's mercy, right? It's a sign that something is happening and that the door is being opened for you. So tell us about the rain, brother.
Okay, well, so it was the, I call it the reward for a very long period of istighfar that I did. The period it fell, the period of istighfar, of seeking forgiveness, it fell in a very good period of time during the year, because it was Ramadan during the time, and also the COVID situation here in my home country, it was pretty bad, so I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to school, everything was closed, we were in a full lockdown. So what happened actually was, I just started doing a lot of istighfar, seeking a lot of forgiveness, because I was just sitting at home, not doing any work, not doing anything. So it was a lot of time, a lot of free time during the holy month of Ramadan. So that was also a very big plus point. How I approached it was every like mandatory prayer, I would do the istighfar for like numerous recitations. I didn't really have a strict number of recitations. Like every time I just started doing it, and once I felt I was done, I just stood up and I went on with my day. The rain actually itself, it was it was the most amazing experience that I had until this point. I still remember I was going I was going to the Mac Drive with my car, and sort of like, you know, the button you press before you can talk to order some food.
Mhm.
So the button, it was not working, so I had to get out of my car to order the food. I had to get closer to the microphone. So what happened is I opened the door and I went out, and out of nowhere it started like raining really, really, really hard on me. And it wasn't a normal rain, and it was like a really brief period of time. So like not long, and a really heavy rain. The weird thing is, once it started raining, my first like reflex, like natural reflex, wasn't to jump in my car real quick and like, you know, shed from the rain. But I felt like I should just keep standing, and the rain felt like a blessing. It felt like a blessing, cleansing me and cooling me off and really calming me down. It was a wonderful experience.
This is amazing, brother. You know, talking about spiritual experiences, right? Because oftentimes we're getting signs or manifestations, but there's still some interpretation to be done, you know, or is it something that I'm imagining? Is it something that is really happening? Is it something that basically I just think that, you know, God is sending me a sign or whatever, and it is not. You know, you're wet.
Yeah, I was wet.
You're wet, and I remember because you were doing it, you know, and the way that I described it to you. And of course, there are many other benefits to seeking God's forgiveness. We're not just doing this for the rain, you know. I remember you had other benefits, everything was going better for you
Yes,
on a
exactly.
personal level, professional level, everything else. But when we talk about the rain, God in the Quran has a verse where he says, He will send rain from the sky upon you in continuing showers. Everyone who starts doing this practice that I give out wants the rain, right? They're looking for that rain. And I remember at some point you said, I think I got it. You know, it rained in your country. And he said, I think, you know, maybe I said no. When you're going to have it,
You're
you're
gonna
going to
know
know
it.
it's yours. There's not going to be a tenth of a percent doubt in your heart that it is your rain, right? I said, no, just keep going. So of course, I guess you were disappointed at that point. You know, I told you to keep going, but I told you, no, just keep going. You'll see when it's going to rain for you. It is, there won't be any doubt at all that it is your rain. So let's think about why now you know that it's your rain. First of all, let's think about the synchronicity, right? Because people are trying to find synchronicities in everything they're doing to try to make sense of life. I mean, that button didn't work. So you had to get out of the car, and it wasn't raining before. If I remember correctly, you told me that it wasn't even
Yeah.
cloudy that day. There was no rain announcements in the weather, nothing at all. And it was just that brief period of time that you had to get out, that, as God said in the Quran, and for his word is the truth, rain upon you in showers. You were showered at that exact time. So then you know, like there is no doubt anymore. You know that it is your rain and you have gotten it from God's grace. And I told you that that's the signal of blessing, right? That's the signal that the door is open for you to start practicing magic. This is, to be honest, this is not something that I've learned from anyone. You know, this is something that has helped me personally. This is a process that I have been through personally. I didn't read it in any book. I wasn't taught it by any sheikh. And just as I've gotten my rain, you have gotten yours. Then no one can take that away from you. You can ask God anything. And if you do it in full faith and belief, you see that there's something coming back. And it's not because so many times God answers us in ways that we don't fully understand, we don't fully see. But that time you touched it. So this is a very important achievement, I think.
Yeah.
It builds up our belief in God, builds up our belief in our practices, and it also builds up our confidence. Like, hey guys, I made it rain. You know? So I'm very, very happy for you. And of course, I cannot imagine the happiness and the pride that you felt in your heart. You know, it must have been, like you said, it really, like, it was cleansing you. Like usually you get rained upon like that, you get wet, you're like, you know, you're all mad. But I guess you wanted to play in the rain at that point.
Yeah, it was very calming.
Amazing. So thank you for sharing about that experience, brother. As I said, it's not everyone who gets it. It's only the people who put in the work, and really, you have to be perseverant. It won't happen overnight. And I told you, it really depends about your balance, right? What you have already in the bank, because you have to erase all that. So great achievement there. Now, I wanted to ask you, because you know you've been studying for a while, you've been studying for years, and I mean, if I tell you something, I mean, this is a huge promise, telling someone like, hey, you're going to recite this verse and it's going to rain, right? But I'm guessing something or some things were appealing to you, right? So could you touch a little bit on those things? Like what really made you interested or motivated to put these things into practice? Because even when you speak about books, you're like, I bought so many books, I read 5 pages or 10 pages, and then I'm demotivated, I let them go. So what was different this time around?
I think the thing that did it was the approach that you took. We started with the ritual, and you broke it down first. When we did the istighfar, you told me about the story behind the istighfar. Like you build everything up very good, and you whenever like you explain it, you explain the backstory, the reason, everything that surrounds the practice. So that way, when I'm reciting it, it's not like I'm reciting some words which I don't understand, as I said, which I don't feel confident in reciting.
In Arabic magic, every practitioner has to have a wird. When you go to learn from a sheikh, or you go to learn from a teacher or a guide or whoever, the first thing they're going to give you is your wird, is your daily practice, is the you know, you could call it your zikr or your mantra or whatever, something that you're going to use daily for the rest of your life, something you're going to recite continuously, practically. And there are many powerful verses out there in the Quran, right? And there are also different methods of choosing your word. And again, there's a natural progression, right? People nowadays, we live in an era where it's, you know, consumerism and speed for everything. We want everything now, today, ready-made. People want to open a book, practice this ritual, and get the results. But that's not how things work. Unfortunately, it's not how things work. It's not how the spirits work. It's not how they operate, you know, and it comes back to the very old, ancient, and wise practice of giving permission, idhn or ijaza, no matter how you call it, but the, you know, spiritual permission to practice magic. Whereas what I tell my students, and I told you, if you remember, is that that rain is actually divine permission. It's not me giving you permission. You get the rain, it's divine permission. You don't need your permission from anyone else after that point, right? So all this to say that, yes, different approaches. I'm glad that my approach stuck with you. And I'm sure it's not fit for everyone. I mean, it really depends if the person is ready to work. But again, when we get results like these, it kind of takes the guessing out of the equation. It takes all the confusion, right? All the questioning, self-doubt. You just know that you can keep going in that direction. I didn't make it rain for you. You know, you were able to do it on yourself. So I thank you for developing on that. Now, you mentioned about the dhikr, but we also spoke about other things. We also discussed other things such as conjuring, protection, you know, stuff like the residence, which is something that a lot of people are not aware of. These are all things that we have spoken about, and you know, we have been through each conjuration that I have provided you, and because I wrote them myself, I'm able to explain to you exactly why we're saying this in this way, why we're using this divine name, right? We go out through it together, word for word. Now, I would like you to tell our listeners, how did you implement those teachings?
So whenever you would give me a new conjuration, I would always like just implement it as a daily practice for at least a week or two. It made me get used to the recitation, familiar to the conjuration, and it just also gave me this confident feeling. And I also think this confident feeling, I keep falling back on that word, but I really think that if you go into these things without confidence, the results aren't going to be really good, in my opinion. So yeah, that was a really huge thing for me, man. That putting everything into a daily practice, getting confident with it, familiar with it. So whenever I went into the rituals, the protection and the release was something that was automatically memorized. Even I didn't really have to look it up or read it from the papers.
That's great. That's great. And that's really how you want to be in the ritual.
Exactly.
When you are going to conjure jinns, you have to exude confidence. I mean, if you're going to go talk to a pretty woman, right, you have to be confident. You have to not just to feel, oh, I feel somewhat confident, or tell yourself I'm confident. You have to be radiating with confidence. And that really just comes from practice, right? Now, I remember something that you told me when you started using the protection conjuration, right? Because you said that, okay, I've been having some results just from the protection,
Yeah,
correct? So
exactly.
what did you notice when you started using it as a daily practice?
Okay, so the way I use it as a daily practice was whenever I would wake up in the morning, I had my morning prayer. Then I would go out for like a training session or for something else, getting ready for work. Then normally after the second prayer, after the Dhuhr prayer, I would do 7 recitations, up to 10 recitations, 15 recitations. I just started reciting, and whenever I felt like I was done, I would stop. And this was something I always did before going to work, and it just gave me this boost at work. I started seeing a very confident person in my workspace. I started doing things which I didn't do before, being really confident, and it really gave a really a safe feeling, like you can do anything you want. Don't worry, we got your back.
It's amazing. That's amazing. That conjuration is, many people who have used it, they have actually had similar results to yours. But of course, not everyone is going to recite it 7 or 10 or 15 times. But I think that was part of you memorizing it and really internalizing it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see because it's a pre-ritual protection oath, right? And then you start seeing other results. I mean, people who don't see anything, don't feel anything, if it has that effect on you, imagine what kind of effect it's going to have on the jinns and on the angels. So again, confirmation, right? Confirmation that you're doing something that is effective. You're not just saying something because it's written somewhere. And I remember also about the residents, you had fun with the residents, right?
Yeah,
The jinns
exactly.
living with you. You had fun with them as well. So how did that go?
Yeah, so the residence, it was the first time I did the release, the first few like the few days, I also just took it as a daily practice, getting used to it. The first days I didn't really get any results or anything like that. But it was also because I was still training my psychic senses a lot, so I was still at the beginning, like at the beginning of that, to be honest. But like a few days after I did the offering to the residents, as you told me, I really started seeing some effects. I started like hearing footsteps, people leaving, um, uh, like air passing by, and also like some like horse hooves on the ground. You know that tock tock tock, the sound that the horse hooves make. Yeah, exactly. Like that sound. It was something that I could hear sometimes.
Okay, so this is a big thing now because, for some people, this stuff is like wild, right? It's like, okay, someone is in the house or they might be scared, but I told you, look, these are the signs that the residents are leaving, right? That they are leaving. Of course, I mean, think about it this way, like, and as I explained to you, you moved in with them. It's not
Yeah.
your house and they're living with you, it's their house and you're living with them. So there are all these signs that they're leaving, that when you tell them to leave. And we don't burn them, we don't use the Quran because that is a very oppressive way. Most people, they're going to tell you, okay, just read Surah Zalzala and they're going to leave. But if you're going to live with someone, it's better to have a good relationship, because believe it or not, if you get on their wrong side, they might end up attacking you. And that is a whole other story. It's better to have a good relationship with the residents, because otherwise they can make your life a living hell, because after all, they are the ones who are entitled and the ones who live there. It's like they're not attacking you, you're attacking them. So that's why I wrote the conjuration in an authoritative way, so they leave, but also in a nice way, so they don't feel threatened or attacked. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't get, is the horses. When you hear the horses leaving, is like really like, oh man, like they're taking their stuff and they're leaving. Yeah, many people, they get the sensations, they feel the room getting clear or getting empty.
Yeah.
But and then how did that happen? After the offering. So when you made the offering as a good faith offering, that's when they started giving you the confirmations that you were looking for.
Yeah.
See? But again, of course, like you said, there was the psychic senses, everything that we were doing also as a practice to open your third eye, to those are all things that we were doing in conjunction. But that's why I tell people the signs they should be looking for, because when we know what to look for, our mind can more easily process it and sense it. So many people hearing this are like, what? Hooves and stuff? Really? Like, they would just go out running. But again, that's when the confidence comes into play, that look, I know what I'm doing. This is what's supposed to happen. it is actually a good sign. Was a lot of people, they'll see wind, like, oh my God, what is happening? This, they'll get scared and they'll leave. So this stuff is not for anyone, it's not for anyone and everyone. And of course, we built up to it, right? I mean, after we do a certain amount of things and things happen, like I tell you to, we build up this relationship of trust that when I tell you, okay, this is what's supposed to happen, this is why it happens, and you should still go through. Now, we spoke about the dhikr, we spoke about the preliminary steps, we spoke about everything that we did before the actual rituals. Now comes the big moment. You're going to conjure a Jinn King. And I remember the first ritual you did is the ritual for knowledge.
Yes.
With King Barqan.
Yes,
Barqan,
exactly.
King of Wednesday. It was associated. He's not the King of Mercury, guys. Many people think these guys, they're planetary. He's not the King of Mercury. He's the King of Wednesday. He's a terrestrial king. So how did that go with Barqan?
It was my first ritual ever, so it was the first ritual that I did in my life. I felt very confident because everything was inside of my head. I studied everything. I memorized everything. I got familiar even with the ritual, with the conjuration oath. Um, Everything also, like all the things that I needed, such as the white drape, the robe, the frankincense, and the benzoin. Everything was already sorted out. It was all ready to use. I bought everything. Everything was set and ready to go. So that's when I took some time. I wanted to do it one Wednesday, but I had to work, and like I was pretty busy that day. I was stressed out, so I chose not to. But the next week I did the ritual. It was this week. I did the ritual with the King Barqan, Abu al-Ajaib. It was a really nice experience. I didn't really so now I'm 100% sure that the people that were misleading me, telling me all these crazy things about magic, dragons flying around, this and that, that's not true. So I did the ritual, and yes, I had some physical manifestation, but it wasn't like I was getting pulled into a portal, traveling through worlds, doing this, doing that. It was just me noticing things such as um, my temperature. My temperature was something that I could notice very, very hard. It was in a period of like 15 seconds. We could say 10 to 15 seconds. At one point in this time period, my temperature felt like I was glowing hot. I was exhausting, like I was really, 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 really hot, and I felt like I was at the beach in Morocco during the summer. Like it's really 40 degrees Celsius outside. And then maybe 5 to 10 seconds later, I feel chills. I'm literally like shivering in my room. And that was really weird because the shivering also didn't really feel like I was cold, but yeah, in some way it did. It was a really weird feeling of being cold. Something else that I could feel was, for example, air passing by. So not really just air passing by, but it sort of not touched me, but by the speed it passed, it left like this rush of wind that struck me very slightly and that I could feel. That gave me the confirmation of these spirits being with me.
Hmm.
From there, I did the charge. It was a ritual for knowledge, and just the day after, Subhanallah, I did my second ritual with the King Shamhuresh.
So before we go into the second ritual, okay, when you look at these conjurations, because the conjuration, when you compare it to other conjurations you've read, right, in books, and what stood out? Like, how does it compare? Because these conjurations, let's keep in mind, I write them from scratch, right? And I make them specifically for the ritual in question. Everything is laid out, of course, from the timing to how to prepare the candles, make the preparations, the incense, everything is laid out. But I'm sure you've come across that in the past.
Yeah.
So how does it compare to other rituals or other conjurations you've seen in the past?
Okay, so the first thing is we went through them together, so that was a big plus point. So you gave me the extra info that I needed during the sessions that we had. But apart from that, someone could easily do the ritual if you just stick to everything that is written in the procedure, do everything strictly as it is said and as it is written down, then you can easily do it even without the sessions or this or that. The thing is, it's very clear because everything is also written in a like basic English. It's not like the Lesser Key of Solomon, where I really sometimes I read some words or some sentences as I'm not natively English speaking, that really feel like, okay, I have to look this up, and then it takes like 5 to 10 minutes until I find the word on Google even. So it's a very big plus point. Also, I find your conjurations very pleasant to recite. That's because of the fact that everything rhymes, and that you like when you recite, you can really get into a flow of recitation. Like it's not like yeah, it just sounds like it's weird to say, but it just sounds good. Like the words flow into each other, and it just flows. It goes easily.
Definitely, definitely. And we've spoken about this before because,
Yeah.
when we looked at the preliminary stuff, you caught on to the fact that everything rhymed. Now, as you said, it helps with the recitation. It's like you're singing a song, but there's also a second purpose, which we won't mention here, which is going to stay between you and me, right? As we discussed in our sessions, but it's for a specific reason related to the jinns as well. Now, you've done these months of preparation, and I give you this ritual. It did take you some time to go through with it, because sometimes, and as I always like to tell people, things happen on God's time, not on our time. And it just so happened because I told you that day you're going to do it. You don't want to be all stressed out thinking about a million things or this or that, or like how to organize the second days. Like it has to be the single thing. It has to be the highlight of your day or even your week. So when you did it, when you really think about it, it was actually the best time to do it, because you were in the best state of mind to do it. Now you did that ritual, then we spoke a little bit afterwards. I told you, you explained to me what's going on in your country. Everything is getting locked down. You know, work is basically stopped.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, that puts a strain on your finances, right? So I said,
Yeah.
well, hey, the next ritual that we're going to do is with King Shamhuresh, right? Shamhuresh Abul Walid, who is Thursday's king. And I'm getting a lot of requests. A lot of people approach me to work with King Shamhuresh. Call him Shamhuresh back in our country, right?
Yes.
So I give you this ritual, and then what happened?
The ritual for King Shamhuresh.
Yes, I give you the ritual. I said, okay, we're gonna talk about it. You're gonna do it in this. So tell our listeners what happened.
Okay, so yes, you sent it to me the night of Wednesday. I remember it was the night of Wednesday. We had a little chat after I was finished with the ritual with the King Barqan. Um, you sent me the ritual, and I looked through it. I saw the incense that was needed was mastic and frankincense. So I have these two at home. So that was also already a good sign. I bought enough candles to inscribe 3 candles again for that purpose as well. and I started thinking like, okay, it's night now. I see the first hour after sunrise on a Thursday. So, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna pray Fajr, the first prayer of the day, and then just after it, 1 hour after sunrise, I started reading the conjuration oath like a little bit, and after half an hour, I got really familiar with it and confident, and I proceeded with the ritual with King Shamhuresh.
So now you have to tell us, because you did two rituals
Yes.
back to back, one day
Yes.
after another, with two different Jinn Kings.
Yes.
So how was the experience different, from one king who is mercurial, another king who is Jupiterian in affinity, right? How did the two rituals compare? I mean, what can you notice? Differences? Tell us a little bit more about how the second one went.
Okay, I do think the ritual for knowledge, it had a really big effect on my next ritual, because I felt like, how can I explain it? Like something was guiding me through it. Because the ritual with King Shamhuresh wasn't like the ritual with King Barqan. The ritual with King Barqan, it was like I got it, and like before I did it, it took like 2 weeks or maybe 2 weeks and a half, because I was a little bit like I was a little busy with work, then a little busy with school, then all these situations started happening. But then when the period came, I had this 2.5, 2 weeks of time, which I used to study the conjuration oath and just the whole ritual in general. But with King Shamhuresh, it wasn't. But still, it felt like something was guiding me through it, and I actually do think, and actually know for a fact that it is the ritual of knowledge that helped me through it with the ritual for King Shamhuresh.
I have no doubt about that,
Yeah.
because the jinns, they don't get to work in 3 months' time. They get to work right away. And apart from the results that we talked about, you know, visiting everything that you studied before, and
Yeah.
apart from that, the petition, the charge part, the request that I've written is practical knowledge of magic and divination. So we're not looking for theoretical knowledge. We're looking for higher practical knowledge on how to access the realm of the jinns, to deal with them, how to conjure properly, how to request properly, how to do everything properly. And I wasn't there to see it, but I'm sure that, as you said yourself, everything you did, it's like a voice was telling you to do it in your head, like, okay, now it's enough. Now you can do this. Now you can move on. Now, sit there for a moment. Don't move right now. Put some more incense. So all those little details, that's a jinn. That was your jinni teacher, who is a servant of Barqan, who was fulfilling the request upon his king's orders. Now, if you think about it, you did two rituals. The physical sensations, the manifestations, are they the same? Are they different? What did you feel was different as far as the energy, the presence of the spirits, the jinns that came?
Okay, so the second day, the jinns that came from the conjuration oath with the King Shamhuresh, it felt like it was not a little bit more aggressive, but a little bit more, like, I can't find the word for it. It was really
Imposing?
powerful. Yeah, that's it. Like it was really powerful. It was the winds, the temperature rising, the sounds. Thinking someone is looking at you but nobody is looking, all of these things, it was all the same as the ritual with King Barqan, but everything really felt a little bit more yeah, like powerful, more powerful, and it struck me harder.
I see. Now, we have to take a little moment here, okay? Because it's not even been a year, you know, you've just been with me for a few months and not in continuity, right? You have a life, you have stuff to attend to. Like, we're not in a daily contact doing daily sessions here. You went from someone with many books and seeking knowledge, being misled, trying your best, to one, two, three, conjuring two Jinn Kings within the same week, one day after another. And you did your first ritual, you did your second ritual. How do you feel about that? I mean, when you take a step back here, you know, how do you feel about this whole thing and how it unfolded?
Yeah, really great actually. I feel really great just because of the fact that um, it's been a long time, you know. I've been misled for a long time, and there was some time I met some people that showed me a practice that was adversary to my beliefs, that was not fitting into my spiritual lifestyle, left hand path practices, something that I just didn't really feel comfortable being around. I think all of the years that I turned these things down, and all of the years that I just really kept confident and kept motivated to keep looking for magic and keep looking for the right thing, made me yeah, stumble upon you, thanks to God's grace, and everything is just very clear and everything is exactly like I want it to be. So I think this is truly a God's blessing, me stumbling upon to you, this group, everything being very clear. That's just really God's blessing, man. That's how I feel about it. I'm very grateful, very happy, and I really can't express the feeling. It's great.
Yes, you're right. And it's all from God's divine grace and mercy. I mean, that is for sure. Nothing happens without His say so. And I'm glad that you invoke that gratitude and that divine mercy, because it's really what's putting everything together for you. And I'm grateful to Him to have students such as yourself who are willing to put this stuff into practice, to use it, and to persevere to get the results that they're after. Now, there's a question here that we have to address. Many people, they'll tell you, in order to practice Arabic magic, you need to speak Arabic, you need to fast, you need to know your Quran, you need to do continuous zikr for many, many years, you need to seclude yourself, get away from society, get away from your family for months at a time. Is that a requisite, in your opinion, from your experience, from everything that you have been through until now?
No, I actually don't think so. I know it's something that gets said a lot, that these things are mandatory for magical success in this area, but I don't think so, because these are things like I didn't do anything of the things that you just said, like fasting or seclusion or these things. The only thing that I did was the day of the ritual itself. I chose to to keep my stomach empty, or just I chose to keep a light stomach for the time before the ritual. After the ritual, I would just go and feast and have a good meal. So before the ritual, I just chose to keep a light stomach. But for the rest, I didn't really do anything of these things. And as I said, not only did I get the physical manifestation, and did I really I knew for sure, even though I didn't get the results yet, that the ritual and the request was accepted, and it was accepted in a good way. And yeah, the knowledge one, it also really showed the results already.
Definitely, definitely. See, these are the little things. Knowledge is very fast because it's all in your spirit. They just get working on you right away. and you know you're a perceptive guy, you're a smart guy, like you know that these ideas you're getting in, you know, as you said yourself, even the ritual the day after, they were already guiding you into that ritual, so that was part of them fulfilling their task. Now, another question which I think is very, very important, a lot of our listeners would like to know the answer to, what do you have to say to those people who say that jinns are evil, jinns are dangerous? You know, we see, I've seen it before, experienced occultists, practitioners who work with the Goisha, who work with Satans and demons, right? As we call them in Islam, what the Christians refer to as demons. And then when you mention the word jinn, they're like, oh, jinns are dangerous, they're unpredictable, they're tricksters, they're this and that. What what do you have to say to those people?
I would tell those people to try these things and to see with their own eyes that it isn't like this at all. If you treat them right, they will treat you right, and if you mistreat them, surely they will mistreat you. But it's the same with me. If you treat me right, I will treat you right. If you mistreat me, I will mistreat you too. That's like they're nothing different from us in a way, you know. They're also khalqullah, they're also the creation of God. They also live, they also have families, they have everything just like us, you know. They have religion, they have faith, they have relationships, they have moral codes, you know. So I think if you treat them right, they will treat you right. But if you approach them disrespectfully, yeah, that's up to you. It's all up to you, I think.
Absolutely. So now we're talking about the practice of the ritual, conjuring, summoning the jinns. And of course, before even working with me, you have been studying other methods of conjurations, other Arabic magic material. Now, I'm interested to know because you said, well, okay, even though I practiced, you know, I learned about all that stuff and I read it, I didn't practice from it. And now you're practicing from the material that I'm providing you. So what would you say the difference, you know, the deciding factor for you to say, okay, I'm going to use this and I'm not going to use that? What would you say is the deciding factor in this case?
Okay, so first of all, I want to start by saying it was all because of the names. Because of the names in the Berhatiah, they didn't really feel like names of God, to be totally honest. They felt more like words, yeah, barbarous words, because they don't, you know, they don't have. It's not like the words in your conjurations. For example, names of God such as Al-Razzaq, Al-Wahhab, Al-Ghani, Al-Mughni. Um, it's really different. It's words that don't really sound divinely or so or godly in any way. And it's also, I cannot like find it back in any language that we know right now. And I remember asking you what the names are, and you told me, like yourself, I have asked this question like to other people, like to a sheikh, if I'm not wrong, and and he told you that it were Suryani names for God or for something else. Like I don't remember perfectly.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
the the premise is all barbarous, not just the names of the Barhatiya, but all barbarous names throughout Arabic magic are Syriac names,
okay.
are divine names in Syriac. So that is the premise. That's what people say in general. Like, okay, you're going to come to the point where you're going to use the Syriac names. So yeah, a lot of people will tell you that. Of course, I asked different people, and regarding the Barhatiya, they some of them said something different, which I think is the truth. But of course, we're talking about the Berhatiya now because most people, if not all people, when they start getting a little bit deeper into Arabic magic, they follow the Berhatiya and they read the wonderful things that are said about it. You know, it's mother of all conjurations, and it comes from King Solomon, peace be upon him. And
Yeah, that's also something that stuck with me for a long time. The thought of the people actually thinking and really believing that King Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam did recite these names. The greatest king that ever lived would recite these names. Like I can't imagine any world or any dimension in which that is possible. The greatest king alive, you know, all of these stories we read, we hear about the life of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. When we were younger, we would like hear stories about him, like just like other heroes in Islamic history, like Khalid ibn Walid and all of these other great men. You know, like if you hear their stories, uh, you get shivers, man. Like you get really excited. That like for me, it goes for all the big people in Islamic history, such as Harun, the Khalif at the Abbasiyin Caliphate. All of these big people, you know, we really look up to them. And in my opinion, if you look up to King Sulaiman, alayhi salatu wasalam, the same way like which I look up to him, you cannot think or imagine him doing something like the Berhatiah, to be really honest. And also, like it was his God-given power. He asked God to grant him a power so he would be the greatest king, and that's what God did. It was a blessing from God. It was nothing that he did himself or any power that he had himself. It was the power of God which was given to him. So that's also something that made me very suspicious, if I can say suspicious, about the Berhatiya, because like how can you accept me reading in Quran and reading from a book which I believe that is not written by a man but written by God himself, is telling me that the power that King Sulaiman had was a power which he got from God, and then here I'm reading that he was reciting Suryani names, like Assyric names. That's not logical. So that's something that made me very suspicious about these conjurations, especially Berhatiya.
I see, and there are great promises great things, um, and it does work.
Yeah,
It does work. That's the thing. I mean, there wouldn't be many people using it and singing its praise if it didn't work. And it's really popular for its relative shortness because it's a relatively short conjuration compared to other ones that you mentioned before, such as the Sabaseb, which is very long. There are these all-purpose conjurations that are circulating in the Arabic magic field, if you want to call it that. Is it again your intuition that told you don't use this? Because of course, like you said yourself, Al-Wahhab is the bestower. We know what that means. And I don't use any kind of barbarous names that don't exist. Or if I use names which are not Arabic, I'm able to give you a definition to explain to you what they mean. So do you think that barbarous names are necessary?
totally not, because the rituals that I did, I got the manifestations. I even got the results after one day, and I didn't use one barbarous name. I only used names of God, and that's it. I didn't use any barbarous names or any words I didn't understand or any names of entities I don't know or never heard about. So, no, I don't think you need barbarous words to succeed in magic. Not at all. I think you're like, personally, I do think you're better off without them than with them.
Thank you for developing on that, brother. I really, really appreciate it. This is something that is it's a sensitive subject.
Yeah.
Many people don't agree about it. They're all over the place. Everyone's using them. But again, we have to make a conscious choice for our souls. But again, people for different reasons will tell you that they're necessary or that the Barhati are divine names or this or that. But I say that at the end of the day, as you said, everyone should only do what feels right because no one will be there to save them, or no one should make that choice for them because they're the ones who are going to be reaping the consequences of their choices alone. So I thank you for that, brother. I really do appreciate your answer. Now, do you think, because yes, of course, this wasn't overnight success. We built up into it. But overall, do you think that this is accessible, feasible? Because I'll tell you the truth, many people, they make it seem like it's almost impossible. And it's so complicated. You have to wait for the specific time alignment. You have to do this complicated astrological election, or you have to have this seal to be able to conjure this Jinn King or that Jinn King, or you have to have a certain ring or talisman or whatever. Now, looking at your whole experience from start to finish, do you think this is something that is at the grasp of everyone? Or is it something that is reserved for a chosen elite few?
My opinion, it is accessible for everyone, but the thing is, you really have to put in the work. As you said before, it doesn't come overnight. It's not like just do a ritual and study it and memorize it, then do it, and then you're finished. No, you have the build-up phase, then studying, getting sort of like familiar with magical theoretical things, like the theoretical base of magic. All of these things, they build up and they take time, and you're going to have to put your time and your energy into those things. But if you are willing to do this, and if you really want to change, like if you really want to change your life around, I think it is something that is accomplishable for everyone, for every single one that wants and that will put the time and effort into do the practice.
Thank you. You really touched on a very important point there, which is, and as I said before, you have to put in the work. There's nothing that comes easy, and everything that is worth having is worth working for, one way or another. Another question I have for you, because yes, you are my private mentee, right? We meet privately, video conference, we go through every conjuration, each and every single one by one. I explain everything. I explain the divine names, why it's written this way, why it's, I mean, you know, the only thing that's missing is if I do the ritual for you, you know, at the end of the day. But these conjurations, these rituals, everything that I have given you is also available on my Patreon. Now, of course, my patrons, they don't have access to the one-on-one coaching. So do you think that people without the one-on-one coaching and mentorship, they're still able to put everything into practice and to succeed?
That also depends on the person. To be really honest, I think the one-on-one sessions just give this extra finishing touch. Like it just gives that little extra push and extra confidence, extra everything. Let's call it that. It really helps you in all facets of the whole ritual, of the whole magical practice in general. You know, it just gives this talking to someone with the experience and with years of studying and years of years of knowledge. You know, it's really something. It's really something else. It's this feeling of I can also ask something, and I really trust your words as questions. The way you answer them is not by answering me directly. What you like to do, like I sensed it during the sessions. What you like to do is you like to make me think, and you like to answer like you like me to answer my own questions. You know, just by normal logical thinking. This simple thing, if I may call it simple, it's like it's really simple, but it helped me a lot. Because if you think of something yourself, like it's not like someone told you or you saw it somewhere or you read it somewhere, like you really thought of it yourself. You used your logic, you used your common sense, and you came to this point and to the thought that you're at that point, you know.
So yes, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head there. if you find your own answer yourself to a question, first of all, you believe it. You just
Yeah.
believe it. It's not, no one has to convince you. But of course, I will ask a series of questions to make you think about it a certain way. And then, some people, it will take them one question, two questions, and other people will take them 15 questions until they find the right answer. But of course, I will confirm it afterwards or not. But I'm not just spoon feeding you the information, because at the end of the day, there's so much information out there. If that didn't get you practicing, me just telling you everything, it won't get you practicing either. So to summarize here your answer, you're saying basically it depends on the person. So some people, they will need the one-on-one coaching and others won't, or is it everyone should get the coaching, or is
In my
it
opinion, in my opinion, everyone should get the coaching, but that would be like a little bit busy for you, maybe, brother. If everyone takes the coaching, you will have no time anymore. But the
that's
thing
true.
is, like, the coaching really gives this extra touch, this extra push in all facets of the practice, and it just makes you. I don't want to say makes you succeed better, but I would call it. It will make the pace faster. It will make studying faster. You will understand things faster. You will not be stuck during your studies, which happened a lot with me. I found myself multiple times stuck at a certain place in the book, and I call it stuck. It's like I keep reading the same pages. So let's say the five same pages, I don't understand it. I don't want to go further because maybe the information that is in these pages, I will need it to understand something in the next chapter or in the chapter after. So I didn't really like to skip anything. Like I like to stick to it until I understood it. This is something that you don't have when you have a teacher. When you don't understand something, you have these meetings. You can talk. You can discuss things. You can exchange ideas, and that's really a big plus point.
So I thank you for developing on that. Now, there's something that I want to ask, okay? From beginning to end, and let's include everything in this, not just, my teachings or, our sessions or whatever, conjurations, the guidance, the information, the rain, the horse hoofs on the ground, the manifestations, the winds. What has impressed you most?
For me, it was most certainly, it was the rain. The rain was the biggest impact experience that I had in my whole life. It really had a really big impact on me because, as I told you, I was hanging around these people. It was a coven of witches which follow this left-hand path. It's a pretty dark path, pretty dark practices. I didn't practice anything with them, but I kept close with them, and we were looking to start working together, but it didn't come to that point. And the thought sort of that they instilled upon me was God has turned his back on you, that God, yeah, the just that God has turned his back on me, and that I didn't really have any way back. I should keep working with them and start working with them and do what they're doing. Now, this feeling, even when I broke off with these people and I met you and we started the studies, I'm going to be honest, I stumbled upon these people on a very young age, and they brainwashed me in a way which I really like. I really believed the words they're saying. So even when I was doing this istighfar in the beginning, it really felt like, okay, I don't know if it's gonna I don't know if it's going to do anything or even work or even be accepted, or is God even going to listen to me? And then for the rain to come and like touch me in such a way, and that's like a physical manifestation. I never had it in my life, and it's such a big impact, but it feels so good at the same time. It was a wonderful experience. Even now talking about it, I got shivers. I'm waving my hands around. It's absolutely amazing.
That's amazing. That's a really amazing. And now let's pay attention here, guys. This guy has just conjured two Jinn Kings. One is reputably dangerous. The other one is known as, benevolent. I don't believe in that, but he's known as benevolent. and I asked him what is the thing that impressed him most. It's nothing related to jinns, nothing related to his rituals, it's related to God. And that was one of the things that he received and he was able to manifest at the beginning stages of experience, not summoning anything, not asking anything from anyone, making any petitions or requests or whatsoever. So I always tell people the only spirit you need in your life is God. And it's very sad to see, and this is not something that is unique to this group of people. I've seen it many times over, even with very advanced practitioners who get to a certain level and they think that, well, God has turned his back on them, that he won't listen to them, he won't listen to their prayers, he won't accept them. But the only thing that I have to say is go ahead and try it. Just try it. You have nothing to lose, everything to gain. And you might get wet in the process. So now I want to ask you about this whole experience with the Jinn Kings, right? So you conjure one king, then you conjure another king. Many people, they'll say, you know, their temperament, this and that. Even, and we're not just talking about Western people here, we're talking about also Muslims. Will tell you magic is shirk. Shirk is association with God, or kufr, which is disbelief. Do you feel that anything from which you have done, is it something that you're not sure that maybe you have committed sin in the process, or is it something that is clear? Is it something that you know will benefit you, or you're not sure will benefit you? So how do you feel about this whole experience?
So usually I do have a pretty good intuition. So I usually have this feeling, okay, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing something wrong. For example, with the shukr, the giving gratitude, I was like, there was a period of time I went to Düsseldorf. I told you I went there for a brief like a training camp for 1 week, 2 weeks. What I used to do is I didn't bring any books with me, and we didn't have a Wi-Fi connection or internet connection everywhere we went. So I would do a lot of dhikr. When I came home, I used to pray, I used to do dhikr. I used to do some visualization exercises, and that's how I kept busy spiritually. During the recitations of the gratitude, I wasn't sure what the first letter was of the ayah. So this was the first thing that I thought, like, okay, this is something. What is it? This or that? And the intuition, it showed me the right way here. It's the same with practices such as the Berhatiah, which I really didn't have a good feeling about it, and I really don't want to do it. This doesn't seem really like it is something for me. Same with something I found a little earlier, but I didn't really look into a lot, the Sabaseb conjuration. And so the intuition, it's always been something that I had and that I can correspondence with very good. And with this, I feel really good actually. Things are going great. Um, Knowledge wise, it's I can really see the results. I find myself going into old books that I have read and finding things that I didn't find before. Things, blockades in books where I couldn't go farther because I didn't understand. They seemed like they cleared and I could go through them. I could go more into the book, farther into the book, and actually I found myself today really rushing through books. Like I take in the information at a really fast pace.
Many people are content with just repeating whatever is written and doing whatever is written, but I had to ask you this question about how you're feeling overall, you know, from your practices, the conjurations, and everything. Now, how do you plan to incorporate these teachings, everything I have taught you, in your magical practice in the future?
Okay, this is actually something that has already taken place right now. For example, the protection. I took the conjuration, the protection conjuration, but I just changed one little thing. What I did is I took out the part where it was written until my work is done. I just like I keep it blank, and then I put in whatever I want until I get back home from work, or until I reach my bed again, or until I'm finished with this, or until I'm finished with that. And that's really became like a daily practice, waking up for the first morning prayer, Fajr. After that, I just go do the protection conjuration. This is something that I use daily now. It's on a daily basis, and it's given me a really good feeling. Also, the istighfar, the seeking forgiveness. This is also something, the dhikr you gave me, the conjuration for the protection, all of these things, they really turned into a daily practice. Every time, like, we have a good day at work, we have a good day at practice, we have I have a good competition, or I have a big accomplishment in my school career, in anything, I find myself giving gratitude to God.
That is something that really touches my heart. It's really not when someone is using what you're telling them, but they really internalize it and it becomes automatic. Like you said yourself, we have to be grateful to God for just giving us the opportunity to seek his forgiveness, right?
True.
And I remember I told you to structure it in a way to ask forgiveness first and then to give gratitude. And there's a very specific reason, which we all won't go into now. If I give you something or you give me something, everyone wants to feel that the other person is grateful. But people, they're just asking. But God, the first thing, of course, he's not like that because he's not like us human beings. But is this person grateful enough, right? For everything that I've already given them. I mean, we could just ask so many things without being grateful, even though God doesn't withdraw, right? But we have to be conscious of, and as I like to say, every opportunity of gratitude, right? The meals, the food on our tables, the money in our pockets, the shelter over our heads, the clothes on our backs. We have so many reasons to be grateful for, but it doesn't come automatic. It's not like you're going to sit and you're going to be like, okay, I'm doing gratitude. No, it becomes automatic, and you see everything that you have to be grateful for, and it also becomes more sincere, and you have this continuous link with the Creator, who, believe it or not, and I'm not talking to you because I know you do believe, but believe it or not, everything good that you have in your life comes from him one way or another. Now, this whole process, from start to finish, do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was worth the time, the effort, the money that you spent learning from me, and also the energy and the work that went into using and implementing it? Do you think it was worth it?
Okay, so for me personally, it was more than worth it, actually, because I told you before a couple of times already, but I have this inner, I call it an urge to do magic. Like, I remember during the times which we were doing the istighfar, and we were doing the other dhikr, I really was eager to learn, to start how to start working with the jinns, and to learn how to work with them, and this and that. And I've been having this feeling and this urge for a very long time. I've been misled for lots of years. I've done very stupid things, thinking wisdom is going to come from them, and I found myself without wisdom, without anything. And then I stumble upon you, and we start studying. Like, we start the studies together. You start teaching me. I start understanding a baseline of magical theory, and all of these things. They were, for me personally, it really felt like it really felt like, yeah, it like felt like homecoming, you know, like a soldier coming home, somewhere like
Wow.
disorientated, not knowing where he is, not knowing what to do, like just keep going, like keep going forward, tunnel vision like a train, you know. And this really felt like, okay, here I can like orientate myself, look around. This is interesting. This is interesting. Okay, get to studying. Everything go like comes in very good. You know, it's explained the right way. You can take your time. You can go as fast as you want. You have all of these really big convenience points. You know, like sometimes we used to do 2 sessions in a week, and also there was no problem like if I couldn't meet you for 2 or 3 weeks time. It was practically perfect with my personal life, with my professional life, and that was also a very big plus point. Apart from that, I also want to say that you feel like you can grow from here, and and the best thing is that this only feels like it is the beginning of so much more to come. So that's, I would really suggest for everyone, if they're having the same trouble as me, not being able to find the right wisdom, not feeling good, not having a good feeling, having a good intuition about the practices they're doing. If you're practicing something and you don't fully like, you're not falling in love with the words, let's call it like, let's put it that way, you're not falling in love with the words you're reciting, you don't have this feeling, to be very rude, I would say it's a waste of your time, because you can have all of these wonderful experiences, loving experiences, without doing something opposite to your moral code, to your religious beliefs, or to anything you believe in general.
Wow. That is very deep. And I was just reminding myself and comparing, and I was like, well, these are two different people, you know. Sometimes you see people over the years, they change, but this is just a few months and you seem like a completely different person in the way that you express yourself and the way that you think of magic and what you place importance on. The beginning, it was like, okay, let's go. When's my, show me the ritual. I want to do this. And you're asking me questions. I said, hold on, hold on. Let's first get you in contact with the one who made you and made the angels, made the jinns. And of course, if people would just listen to their intuition, people don't listen to their intuition. You have a good intuition, I have a good intuition, but most of the time we will put it on the back seat. Like you, all these years being misled, there was a voice telling you, like, hey, this doesn't seem right. You shouldn't be doing this. And of course, it kept you from going all the way and getting to the point of, let's say, no return, if such thing exists. But when you stumble upon something that your intuition really is telling you to go forward with, that's when you can go back and say, oh man, all this time I've wasted, just studying something or learning from people that were not going to get me anywhere. And of course, when you look at the time period, you said it was many years, where it's, us together, it was just a few
You
months.
know,
That's because the people, they come to me and they think I'm just going to give them a ritual in the first meeting and let's go, let's start conjuring jinns, but that's not how it works. You were in kind of that situation as well. But what differentiates you is that you put in the work and you take everything, you take it on. And let's just say that the results that Youssef got and that he's going to continue getting are proportionate to the work that he's putting in. Not everyone can get the same results. And now he's even going further as modifying little bits of the conjuration to fit his needs. So you see that this person went from not knowing A from B to being fully confident to take on daily practices, to start conjuring daily. So these are all signs, they're basically as evident as can be of huge spiritual progress. The way that you're using everything from the Quranic recitation to the conjurations to the rituals, everything now for you just comes naturally. And when we think of the levels of mastery of any skill, the desirable level would be for things to be natural. Now, you did give some advice, but before we finish, is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners?
First of all, something I would like to tell the people is jinns aren't these super aggressive, malevolent beings that will eat you alive, or that will burn you, or that will do wrong to you, or that will hurt you if you approach them respectfully and approach them the right way. They're just the same as us. They're just a creation of God with different purposes than our purposes, some purposes the same as our purposes. And they just live alongside us, and they have been living alongside us for like from the beginnings of time, you know. So that's if you are scared, or if you have been misled or misguided or misinformed about this fact, I want to personally tell you that this is not true, and that you should look into it, and that you should really get the understanding of not only our world and their world, but seeing it as what as one world, and seeing us all together as a creation of God, working together, not working for each other, but working with each other. Um, Also, one thing I want to say is I see a lot of people in the group, they post like pictures of talismans, or they post pictures of rings, or of this or of that. And that's something that I have done too, you know, like I remember sending Reda this picture of a ring I found with one of my friends. It had this really weird snake head on top, and like a teeth of a snake, or like I don't know which animal it was popping out with some weird signs and this and that. You know, I'm guilty of this as well. I sent it to Reda, and I was like, oh, look at this, what I found. Is this something powerful? This and that. This is all misinformation, but it's it's something that I if I may, and if I can advise anyone listening to this, I would advise everyone not to look too far into these things, and to not look too far for magic, if because magic is probably just right around the corner from you. You probably just are looking into the wrong directions.
That's some very important advice. And, it goes back to show how simply we are practicing, right? I never told you to get a ring or, make this talisman, but as you said yourself, so many people go looking for magic too far out and in the wrong direction. And that's why they end up being misled even further, because they already started within the wrong direction. So I think it's very important for people to look back into what's inside and reflect upon what led them down that path to be able to make better decisions in the future. So I thank you for the advice. I thank you for the great information that you have shared throughout. Even me, I have learned a lot from this interview. So I do thank you for it. I thank you for your time, for your willingness to share to other people's benefit, because at the end of the day, this is only for other people's benefit. As we spoke about, there are many people in the world. You're not the only one who are being misled, who are trying to find something, and they're not, they're just still looking. It could be years, months, could be decades. And also so many misconceptions, you know, not just from the Western side, but also from the Arabic and Muslim side. So it was important I think, to do this interview. And I also thank you on behalf of the listeners, which I think are going to find this interview very beneficial and useful. So thank you, brother.
You're very welcome, brother. Anytime, anywhere, you can always find me. You can always ask me questions. That's no problem. I'm very grateful to you. I'm very grateful for you, for all the information, for all the help. Like even the small things which I will not say right here. Reda was not only there when I needed him for the Zoom sessions, but also when there was like turbulent experiences in my life, or like something happened that made me upset or that made something harsh. Reda was always a person which I could reach out to, and which helped me, and which, like, I could tell him my problems and he wouldn't just like acknowledge that I should feel bad, because that's what people do nowadays. If I go to a friend and I tell him, oh, I've had such a shitty week, all of these things are going bad, I don't know what to do, I'm feeling pretty bad, this and that, he's gonna go, oh yeah, man, I feel you too, bro, this, that. And that's not the case with you, Reda. Like, if I come to a problem with you, you always respond with a way to fix the problem. And that's something I really want to express my greatest gratitude for all the things that you have done for me, brother, and thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. It all comes from the heart, and I'm grateful to have wonderful students such as yourself. So thank you for the kind words, brother.